Joining us right now is Dan Bauer, principal at Marblehead High School and soon to be superintendent of the Danvers Public Schools. Dan, welcome. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me here. Thank you.
Of course, Rick Moore is alongside as well here. I'm Bill Newell with MSO News Sports. And Dan, first up, we have a couple of photos we're going to put up on this post from your Twitter account from graduation. So maybe you could share with us some thoughts about leaving Marblehead High School. You've been, it's been a big part of your life, I'm sure, and an educational career as a kind of a springboard now to Danvers. But just kind of put some context into Marblehead.
Yeah, it was a culmination of just 7 great years. I thoroughly have enjoyed my time. We have wonderful students, awesome staff, and the community just really supports everything that happens within our schools. So I've been very blessed. Really, people have been very welcoming, and I wasn't sure coming in 2016 as coming in from Beverly, crossing the bridge, that's a big deal. But Marblehead's been just so welcoming to me, and really the graduation we just had, it was just very classy, and it was a nice way to kind of move into my next chapter of my life, being able to celebrate with the seniors in the community and the faculty. It was really a lot of fun.
Yeah, and you succeeded one of my former colleagues, John Zergabel, probably once or twice removed. And, he said the same thing. He came from further across the bridge down in Gloucester, up in Gloucester, I should say. So I just want to ask you about the commonality among students, because you've dealt with, as a coach and as an administrator, as a teacher, you've dealt with students from pretty much all over the North Shore. And what do you find in common among, say Beverly and Marblehead and maybe anybody else you've dealt with?
That's a great question. And, I didn't really know Mr. Ziegerbell, but I know he's still revered here in Marblehead. So when people bring up his name, it's always, he's revered. I'll leave it at that. I find that the students, honestly, there's so much commonality in terms of they're teenagers, right? They want to do well. They're looking to create their identity. And I think if you empower them, give them the ability to find their way and support them and be positive, they respond. And I saw that certainly in Beverly, at Masco, where I taught, but I see that here in this community where, and I think the other thing too is you have a pocket of students that they're still trying to really find their way. They might not be involved with athletics or music and the fine arts, but they try to find their way. And I think giving them a little support and certainly letting them know they're important, and just being there and be a positive influence for them, I think is an important thing. And students rise. I think the commonality is students will rise to expectations. And again, I think it goes back to just, having a relationship where you can just say hello and ask them how they're doing and how the day is going, and just getting to know them. Like one thing that they might connect with the school, I think goes a long way. And ultimately, I think that turns for them to find their way along and also find whatever success they're looking for. And that's what I've enjoyed as principal. And I certainly know the further you move up the administration, the further you move away. All the interactions, right? As a classroom teacher, you're right there. You're with the 24, 25 students. And then when you move up to assistant principal, you're not always dealing with all the pleasant things that happen, but you're still with the kids all the time. And then as principal, you kind of move back. But I always try to make a point to be in the halls, to be in the cafeteria, to be at the events, and certainly try to greet them and then say goodbye at the end of the day. And I think that really goes a long way. And that part of it, it's just been gratifying seeing the students as they come in as freshmen and leave here and grow and develop.
Dan, as a coach, and a football coach you were at Beverly, you can measure success with wins and losses as one factor, as one measuring tool, I'm sure. But there are many others in sports as well as a high school coach, as you well know. But as a principal now, when I go to a Marblehead sporting event, it would be unusual for me not to see you. I see you at basketball games. I saw you at the lacrosse game the other day. I couldn't come over to see you because we were trying to grab some post-game interviews at the time, but I knew you were there, but you were always there. But Dan, I guess when you look at that building principal, because I think it's a great job in a sense that you do oversee the building. You are involved with student outcomes and interactions, as you just point out. But when you look at what accomplishments you made at Marblehead, what would you kind of single out?
I think one of the things that is always important is student involvement and student connections. And just being able to create opportunities for students to either create clubs, join clubs, create opportunities where students learn and find out what opportunities are there, I think is something that I feel we've done a nice job with. We have over 50 clubs here. 72% of our students participate in athletics in some capacity, which is a very high percentage. And we have a number of students that are in the fine arts, whether it be in drama, whether it be in photography, music. So I think that piece of it, and I don't think that it was me that made the difference in that piece, but I think being part of and being at those events and talking about it and promoting it, I think is the job of the principal, because I think it's important for our students to see how it's all connected. And certainly I think that our community service is at a strong level here too. Again, I can't say that that's directly related to me. I think it's more a lot trying to create a culture where students want to be involved. They want to do things that can improve, the community or the school culture.
Yeah, but coach, it comes from the top down. I mean, you got to have that enthusiasm at the top, as you well know from being a coach, assistant principal, a teacher, and principal. And I want you touched on something I think as a former teacher was so important to me, and it's visibility. So when you go to Danvers, you're up at the next level now,
Right.
and you're on top of everything at this point. Do you foresee a way that you can be visible not only to the kids but also to the staff, because you're that 1 degree removed again up higher with the paperwork, the parents, the school committee, and all that stuff you have to be involved with. But it's still so important to me as a teacher down in the trenches to see the superintendent come by once in a while and know what's going on in my building.
That's a great point, Rick. And that is, that's one thing that I'll really try to do as much as I can, is to make those points of contact. It'll be different because I think, as you said, as you move further back, it's just the positionality, right? That here comes the superintendent. And I don't want it to be that way. I want people to be comfortable. Like when I like to walk in classrooms, I like just to be able to say hello and see what's happening. And I'd like to be able to continue that. And I will work on ways where I can do that, where I can get into each, instead of the high school. Now it's, the 5 elementaries, the middle school and the high school, and figure out regular times when I'm there and create an environment where people don't feel like, oh my God, the superintendent's here, but like, no, just keep going about your business and maybe actually asking me to jump into a lesson or be part of whatever activities happening. That's what that'll be what I will try to work on and want to have happen. That'll be one of my goals, is that visibility piece, being out at the school at the beginning to greet people. And I know that I'll have increased responsibilities, but just like anything else, I think as building principal, I always felt like this time of day is when I got my paperwork done and all that other stuff, because during the days when you really want to be available for students and for staff, it's a little different as a super, but I think you have to find ways to make time to be at the schools and also try to be at whatever events that are available, for sure. And I'll try to continue that as well, because I think it's important to, make contact. And I find a lot of those conversations with parents and staff at the events, I think that's when you really get to know people and learn like the pulse and gauge what is really happening. So I think that's probably and that's probably why I enjoyed coaching so much, is that you have that ability to be involved. Although it's a different type of involvement, but yeah, I do appreciate that.
And two, when you go to Danvers, Dan, it's a whole new group of people that you don't know. I mean, some of them obviously now, but there were so many people you don't know.
Right.
And it's just so much new, so to speak. I got to tell you, Dan, I watched your interview with the school committee for the Danvers position, and you nailed it. I mean, I got to tell you, I was so impressed with the way you handled questions. You rattled off, educational theory and a vision, a positive vision, and in how you kind of would fit into that I just thought you had a tremendous interview, and thus, I guess you got that unanimous vote to go to Danvers. So in that regard, it's like that second half of that Beverly season, that undefeated season that put you guys into the Super Bowl. I mean, you nailed that interview.
Well, thank you very kindly for saying that, Bill. You've always been over the years, and you too, Rick. You're both wonderful, and that's very nice of you to say. And I honestly, that was my first superintendent interview.
Yeah.
But I felt that connection with the community just in that short period of time. And maybe it's because living in Beverly and working in Marblehead in Beverly, and also having that proximity, knowing what's going on, but also I just felt a natural connection, within the initial interview, and then that second interview, and being in the district for the day, and just feeling that there's so many positive components to the Danvers community, how much pride they have. They have pride in their schools, they have pride in their community. And I felt energized by that, and that excites me. And that's a large reason I had opportunity in Marblehead, and felt coming here, people same way, right? Very proud of their community, very passionate about what's happening in the schools and in the community, want the best for students. And I feel that in Danvers too. And that was very exciting for me. So anyway, that was.
I know we're under a time constraint, so I want to say a couple of things. First of all, talking with Jim Pugh, one of the things that he mentioned he loved most about teaching and coaching was walking from the clubhouse or from the locker rooms to the field with kids, and walking back from the field to the locker room with kids, because that's when he had some of the most important conversations, and it had nothing to do with football. What fires you up, Dan? You've been doing this for a while. You've done it in many capacities at every single level, had great success. What fires you up to get up in the morning and go to work?
I think it's just that opportunity to honestly help people. I think I really view our administrative role as we are problem solvers, and I just enjoy that part of it. And certainly there's some things that aren't as fun that you have to deal with, but I think it always fired me up to come to school and work with our students and work with our staff. And that'll be the big piece moving into this next role, is finding ways that I can have that engagement, because I really enjoy that. I feel like by not being here would be letting somebody down, because maybe I couldn't help them in that particular moment. I know that sounds really corny, but it is true. So I never felt like really, yeah, some days you're coming into maybe a tough meeting or it's just the nature of the business, but I never really felt like, yeah, I'm going to work and I'm, punching the clock, because I don't think that's the approach. I don't know, if I had that feeling, then I probably wouldn't have stuck with education as long. So, and being fortunate to be around so many great people.
I think too, Dan, I'll go out on the limb on this, but I think you care about kids. And when you care about kids, that makes your job a lot easier in a lot of different ways, because their number one is for what your role is as a school principal. And I think that's in a way, I think that helps out, because it helps you out with parents. I think it helps you out. People know where you're coming from, and obviously it's important for the students to know that as well.
Agreed, 100%.
All right. Well, Dan, we won't hold you too long here, but is there anything else you want to share with us?
No, I'm flattered that you set the interview, and it's always great to talk with Rick and Bill, and you guys just, again, I just love what you're doing, promoting North Shore, and you go beyond just the games and such. You really bring out the heart and soul of the North Shore. So I don't know. I think I've been very blessed. I'm very, very lucky, been in great communities, and looking forward to this next transition. A little nervous because, like you said, Bill, it's starting over again, right? You're developing the new contacts, but still a lot of as you move on, you still have those connections too, which I really enjoy as well. So I don't know. It's going to be, the next 2 weeks will be the transition and trying to get away a little bit with my wife and try to catch my breath, and then July 1, jump right into it.
Well, there's going to be a part B to this, or a part 2 to this somewhere down the road, right?
I hope so.
This is probably our last interview with this guy.
Yeah, okay.
That's it. All done.
That's it. Okay, thanks.
But Dan,
well, I've already been asked if I'm coming to the Marblehead Danvers football game next year. I said, absolutely, I'll be here for that game, of course. I don't have to worry about the crowd as much. I have a principal that does that. But I'm just teasing.
Yeah. Dan, I had one more thing I was just going to say, but I guess that's. Oh, I don't think you're going to be able to take a July or August vacation this year. I'm guessing. I mean, I don't know.
Well, with technology the way it is, it's not much of a vacation, but
There you go. Okay.
yeah.
Well, Dan, thanks so much for joining us. Congrats on the move to Danvers that's coming up as superintendent of the Danvers Public Schools, and thanks for all that you've done for us too as well. We really appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank you both very much, and
Thanks,
great
Coach.
talk with you. Hope to catch up soon.
Yep. Dan Bauer with us here, principal, Marblehead High School, at least for now.